Hello, everyone. Michael Ronn here, authorlevelup.com. This is the first interview I've done in I guess a few months. The last one I did was with Nathan Minier, but I'm here today with Alton Skinner, and Alton has a really great story. He is a watcher of the channel, and he emailed me a few weeks ago, and we started chatting, and he had some stuff that I thought would really be beneficial for you guys on the channel. So we're going to talk about health and wellness tonight because that's something that writers just don't talk about in our community. So, Alton, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Just want to say, enjoy being on your channel. I really appreciate your information. It has been immensely helpful. There's a reason that I sell push-ups for a living, and this whole new media thing, you have been such a godsend. So I really appreciate that. So I hope I give some value to the rest of the audience.
No, I appreciate that. I always love it when people on the channel reach out to me, especially when, we have the opportunity to talk about things that aren't being talked about, right? So without further ado, I want people to know who you are. So why don't you tell us who you are, and for those people who aren't familiar with you and your brand, what you're all about.
Well, hi guys. My name is Alton Skinner. I live here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've been a fitness trainer probably full-time since '96, but I grew up in the fitness business. My mother was actually one of the first aerobics instructors in the country. Believe it or not, she sort of inspired me. She was overweight. She lost well over 100 pounds. And that was the first example of like the transformative power of fitness, to go from being not able to do anything to being almost doing everything that you wanted to do. And from that, sort of developing sort of an entrepreneurial spirit. And then I was sort of a smart kid and short kid, but kind of be an athletic kid. So I've just read tons and tons and tons of fitness books. Eventually, even from middle school, started running the strength and conditioning program for our school, and went from worst athlete to like most improved athlete. Fast forward a few years, I end up getting to the golf fitness business. So right around the time with like Tiger Woods and those sort of people. So I've been training professional athletes probably since '96. I also got a chance to work with Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player, and wrote a book, the Golfer Stroke Saver workout. So I'm an author too. And the interesting thing is, the only time I've ever been hurt or injured is when I was writing a book. So we're not really made to sit, and that's kind of why I got in touch with Michael. So that is who I am, and that is what I do. And if I can help you, just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, great. So one of the things I like to talk to when I talk to people about fitness, right? Because you can't see it, but like my stomach is hanging on the desk. No, it's not that bad, but I'm an overweight guy. And so what is your overall philosophy for health and wellness? Because I talk to some people that say, well, I believe in diet. That's the king, right? And I talk to other people that say, well, I just prefer to exercise and then eat whatever I want, but eat in moderation. So what's your approach?
As with everything in fitness, it sort of depends on what you're trying to do. I have always believed, from a health and longevity standpoint, good exercise will make up for a bad diet. So it's possible to be overweight but still be really, really fit. There's Dr. Glazer up in Virginia has done tons of studies where people may not look what we quote unquote athletic or Olympian-like, but have an Olympic level of fitness. So from a longevity standpoint, exercise is good. But in order to sort of change your body composition, you're going to have to control your calorie intake. Because I was training for a triathlon, and I wanted to move up to what they call the Clydesdale, because they do weight classes. So I was training 20 hours a day and still gaining weight. And my little saying is, like, you can always out-eat your exercise. So the quickest thing for busy people, like busy executives or authors, change your food, add in 30, 40 minutes worth of easy exercise every day, and you'll get to whatever your fitness goal is. And then the more intense you are with your food or your exercise, the faster you'll get to your goal.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually never heard anyone say it that way. So it's like exercise exercise gives you that baseline, right? And then it's the diet that takes you all the rest of the way there. That's interesting.
The rest of the way. Yeah, because from like I said, because the trouble with being overweight is, like, fat is alive. It takes about, depending on who you read, about 9 to 10 calories to keep like a pound of fat alive, but it's really, really vascular. So you've got the same size heart, but then as you get heavier, you get miles and miles, literally miles of blood vessels. So that's why you have to worry about high blood pressure. You have to worry about vascular disease. You have to worry about heart, because you got the same size pump, but you've got an extra 3 to 6 miles of blood vessels. So that's why abdominal fat is really, really dangerous. So that is where changing food. And also, people are really busy. It's like, see, I eat really healthy, but I love candy. So I think in everything in terms of like, I love Kit Kats. And, you know, if you want to bribe me, send me a Kit Kat. The small Kit Kat's 220 calories. But, you know, average like 100-pound lady or like 150-pound man on flat ground, you're going to burn like 100 calories for a mile. So like a Kit Kat's like 2.2 miles. And most people is going to walk 4 miles an hour. So that's 35, 40 minutes of exercise to get rid of that one candy bar.
One mini Kit Kat. Oh man, I don't even want to think about that. That's that's brutal.
Yeah,
I just had
yeah, no, it's good, man. It's like, you know, we're human beings. You know, I struggle. I am like the least healthy person that you know. Like I have walked a mile and everybody's moccasins, man. I'm from the South. I grew up on like a pork and tobacco farm. So basically, I've spent the first half of my life giving everybody bacon and cigarettes, and the other half of my life is sort of doing penance for what I did when I was. It's like, so that's kind of what I'm doing here. So that's we're just kind of balancing the scale out. Pardon the pun, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So,
well, you said something interesting a minute ago that I wanted to go back to. You talked about training golf professionals.
Yes, sir.
And so now I guess you could say you're training writers with this book you're talking about, and we can talk about that here in a moment. But what's the difference? Like, what are some of the things you notice in similarities, you know, talking to golf pros and then talking to writers?
Well, it's interesting that the concept that sort of inspired me is one, in both instances, whether you're an elite athlete or a writer or a solopreneur, like your body is your business. It's like if it doesn't perform at its peak, one, you're not going to, in a golf case, you're not going to win, or you're going to get injured, or you're just going to shorten your career. And same thing's like with the author. It's like, you know, we are responsible for just, with our imagination, taking all these ideas and experiences and then putting them on paper. And if your brain is not working well, is it going to take you one longer? Two, it's like sitting is so hard on your body. So you look at the same sort of injuries. It's like golfers, wrist problems, shoulder problems, back problems, hip problems. Authors that sit down and write like they're supposed to every day end up with the same sort of injuries. So that's where it's a crossover. It's like our body really is the business, and the more fine-tuned it is, the more output you can have, or you can do the same output and get done. And most of us write so that we can spend time with our families, because it's sort of, most of us are lifestyle entrepreneurs. And it's like, I like to get done writing and then be able to spend time with my family and not be exhausted or my back sore, or, you know, load up on some Aleve and then drown my sorrows in a Kit Kat. But so that's where this came from.
Yeah, no,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So talk to me about sitting. What do you recommend? You know, if you're a full-time author, right, and you're living the dream,
Okay.
or you're a full-time entrepreneur, you're sitting in your chair 8, 9, 10, 12, in my case, like 12 hours a day, even though I'm not a full-time author, I'm doing 12 hours of something. What do you recommend? Do you recommend standing? Do you recommend just getting up from the desk every now and again? What's the solution?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's this huge trend moving towards like just get an elevated desk, get a standing desk. And what they've learned is not the fact that you're standing, it's the fact that you're moving. Because a lot of times if you stand in the same spot, you're gonna get the same sort of repetitive use sort of injuries. It's not any different than you being on an assembly line, staying on the same spot. So the trick is, one, set regular breaks. I mean, I use the Pomodoro timer. So I set it for like 25 minutes and I take about a 5-minute break. So then I make sure, one, I get up, because then I take a full stretch. I kind of take a lap around the room, because when you oxygenate your brain, it makes you more creative, like boom, like change your state right then. Two, it's like when you're sitting, like your hip flexors, which are like right around where like your pockets on your jean are, they contract all day long, because your body can't tell whether it's sitting or standing. So they get super, super strong. So they actually they'll just get so strong they'll pull your pelvis down. So that's why your back starts to hurt your posture, you're actually being pulled forward. So there's this tension, because your body works almost like you're in Chicago. It's like the Hancock Tower. Everything's just sort of balanced. If one side's out of balance, like it'll actually tilt forward, and your spine and your bones are the same sort of way. So if you get up, get release the tension, you're not going to create such long problems. So get up every 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. Make sure you hydrate, because when your connective tissue, your joints, it needs to be hydrated. And from another standpoint, from creative standpoint, if you're dehydrated, it's almost the same as being sleep deprived for 2 days. It's almost as like being underslept for 48 hours. So it really diminishes it gives you sort of brain fog, fatigue, headaches. So make sure you're drinking your water, like taking a couple sips like every 15 minutes, and you'll be much more creative. So just don't sit. The second thing is, if I came to your office and had carte blanche to do what I would do, one, I'd make sure the keyboard was the proper height. I'd take my chair, I'd sit up, I'd force it where I could sit up nice and straight and talk, because your body's supposed to be stacked up just like that door that's behind you. It's like your shoulders should go straight over your hips through your knees, and draw a line straight through your ankles. That's what Pete DeGostick talks about, who helped Jack Nicklaus avoid a hip replacement for probably almost 2 decades just by keeping your body aligned. So I hope that I sort of lost where I was going, but just make sure everything stays stacked, stay moved, seat nice and tall, elbows up. Because if you notice when I'm talking to you, see how I kind of drop over here? It's like we all have these sort of lazy, sloppy habits, and we're designed to sit up nice and straight and tall. The other thing is I would picture my belly button as kind of like an elevator, and my spine's toward the penthouse, and I'd pull it halfway in between, which will engage your transverse abdominals, which is one's going to give you a bigger, fuller breath and keep you. That's the muscles that like you're training like Pilates. So I'm going to save you like $60 for an hour if you just sit up and put your belly button in. That's basically what you do in Pilates.
Okay. So how do you feel about like treadmill desks? What are your thoughts on those?
I like treadmill desks. I personally am a klutz, and I'm terrified that I'm going to fall over. So I mean, that's the only reason I wouldn't get one. But the concept, what it does is forces you to just move. I mean, it's elevated, and you just kind of walk and you walk and you walk. So it's a little bit of a steep learn. I tried it because I do some work over at the SAS Institute, and they're pretty much early adopters with sort of health and wellness. And a lot of programmers over there use it. It's just a little funky for me, but I think the concept is great. I think was it Nick over there at Side Hustle? Like he has one. I think those things are great. They're just not for me, just because I'm a klutz, and I'm just sort of like real frenetic, and like my research is because right behind me, it took me like an hour to make it look this neat, but it's just like stuff everywhere. I suffer from like ADD, or I'm blessed with ADD, so I'm like super high energy, but I have an incredible memory, and I'm basically unemployable. So everything because I just like blurt stuff out and I move around, I'm like crazy. So in the fitness world, like it's fantastic. Like you're like the best trainer ever, but I used to be a fit investment advisor, and that's not very conducive like this if you're coming to invest. It's really frenetic.
Well, yeah, so, know yourself, right? You have to know yourself and be self-aware.
Yeah, stay in your lane. Well, like the great philosopher Dirty Harry Callahan said in the first Dirty Harry movie, it's like a man's got to know his limitations. So that's sort of my mantra. So
yeah, one of my that's my day job. I work in the insurance industry, so I just got a standing desk, and so that's interesting to me. But yeah, you definitely have to know. I feel like you have to listen to your body. Like one of the things that I found is that like when I'm standing for really, I've been kind of easing myself into it for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's more excellent.
So like I do like 15 minutes, and then I'll put the desk down, and then do like 45 minutes, and then put it back up. And I think I maybe stood about two hours total today. But one of the things that I notice is that like it's like my feet, like they're kind of sore, or they don't. I'm not sure what that is. If that's just I need better shoes, or what's your thought on that?
Well, there's a couple of things going on. One is like I brought up earlier. It's like odds are you're probably in the exact same spot at the same time. So if you kind of fidget left or right, your feet will feel better. Two, like right across the bottom of your foot is this little nerve bundle. So a lot of times if people are complaining, like if they're in an elliptical or a treadmill or standing for too long, it actually make your feet sort of go to sleep. There's a nerve that actually runs up. It'll actually make your foot sort of get that tingly So I would make sure I remove. Another really good thing to do is just one of those sort of almost kitchen style mats that'll help with the cushioning, because most office carpet is like the cheapest possible. So there's no, because where I work at, we have the great rubberized gym floor, and they're terrible. I stand all day long too, so but I had the luxury of wearing like really good like sports shoes. But it's like flooring is terrible. It's like it's concrete with like just cheap minimal carpet, and standing on it, like it's hard because offices are made for people to sit, so they don't think about standing.
Right.
So it working against you. But what you're almost doing akin to like you're talking about Born to Run, where you're becoming like a barefoot runner. So just kind of ease into it day after day.
Right.
Because the other thing, what people fail to realize, like I forget the exact count, but there's just, I think it's like dozens of muscles in your feet, and they get tired. Like, like if you've done like garden work, like your hands get tired, your feet get tired too. They're muscles. And that's the benefit of sort of natural minimalist shoes. It's like you're actually going to strengthen your feet, which is going to help align your body, it's actually a good feedback mechanism, because as you get tired, you sort of shift your weight back and forth, which is going to help you sort of end up being aligned, like we were talking about earlier. But most people don't talk about it. They think you get this stand-up desk and like it's just a miracle. Like it's hard. It's hard to stand up all day.
I felt like a wimp. Like I'm like, man, my feet hurt and I just got to sit down. But that's good. That's good to know. Like
human beings invented chairs for a reason. Like it's hard to stand up, man. It's like, but we're sort of made to move. It's easy to walk, but it's hard to stand. Like that, we're made to take all our joints to a full motion every day. It's like, your arms like. That's like you at your desk, and this is going to look ridiculous, but it's like if you just extend your arms out and did 20 backward circles and 20 forward circles, like all that mid-back tension and all that sort of hand and wrist pain, it would go away. Because see, people forget that their shoulder is a ball and socket joint, and they just go to use your elbow, and that's why you get all the weird carpal tunnel stuff, because you end up using that to twist and turn, and it's not made to do that. It's made to go up and down. So if you remind your shoulder that it's supposed to be a circle, like a good 2/3 is kind of the repetitive use injuries that we as authors, or whether you're a podcaster or a creative, like just your wrist and your fingers are going to be over. We don't use a whole body. We just sort of slump in. We sit in front of this little square box and a little square chair and a little square houses, and we sort of just these little square sort of things, and we end up being nice round things eventually. So.
Yeah, well, let's transition and talk about because you mentioned carpal tunnel. Do you want to talk about your injury? Tell me about that and kind of what your experience was.
Fortunately I have avoided carpal tunnel. I was a fighter for a long time, so we did all these sort of hand strength and wrist strength sort of drills. But what happens is there's this narrow little tube that a tendon runs through your finger, and over time it just sort of swells up. So it's a tendon that's too big going through a hole that's too small, and it'll increase pain, and two, what happens is it'll end up freezing up. It'll actually lock up, and that's why your hand sort of ends up kind of curved and kind of takes the shape of it. So the simplest thing you can do is like when we're doing this little Pomodoro time, the 25 on, like 5 off sort of method. If you'll just extend your hand and like fold it over this way and that way, like whenever your timer goes off, do that like 3 times. Like you're not going to get carpal tunnel. 2, if you have developed either carpal tunnel or sort of golfers or tennis elbows, or I call it writer's elbow because we're sort of crammed up, is what they call it. And you're going to Google this, or the Tyler twist, which is it's more effective than surgery. It's more effective than some of the painkillers and traditional physical therapy. But basically, it's negative loading. They found that it's a long elastic rubber tube, and you twist it, and then you slowly untwist it. And in like 2 weeks, it usually gets rid of most wrist problems and almost all elbow problems. So just remember, we can put it in the show notes, and I'll make a nice little form for everybody at the end. And we'll send you a link to that and all this rambling. I'll clean up this stuff and give the 4 useful things that I say here.
No. See, all this is helpful because this is like another world for me. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but like this is like I think people seeing these exercises like you're doing on the screen, I think is helpful because like you did the wrist under and the wrist over. I'm like, that's really easy to do. I never thought about that.
Well, that is one of the things, and I think my brethren in the fitness industry are guilty of trying to overcomplicate things in order to well, to make a living is sort of like what Nietzsche says, like a philosopher's greatest fear isn't being misunderstood, it's being understood. So we sort of have this weird Wizard of Oz, like, oh, there's only a special way to like exercise. It's like, it's super simple to be healthy. And that's the thing that kind of irritates me. It's like, you got to go CrossFit where we're flipping tires and pulling up, or you got to become an ultra marathoner, or you can, you have to have gluten-free gluten sort of stuff. It's like, just, it's just, and there's the real thing, because I have ulcerative colitis, so like I do know that that's a real thing, but it's just so maniacal. And the other thing is we've become so tech driven that we're so data fed back. It's like, how many steps did I get? How many? Right. What was my volume for the day? And like the joy's gone from like movement and fitness. It's like in the old days, it's just not the old days, but it's just like, it's so like mechanical, and the joy of just going to the gym and like it kind of exploring and playing, it's sort of gone, because it's like, I got 10,000 steps, I burn 1,130. My macronutrients, it's like I got 30 grams of protein per meal. It's like, 3 grams of sugar. So it's everything so mechanical regimen, which is great because you can get your results really easily and you can see what's working, what's not. But it sort of lost with improved results, we sort of like lost the soul of like what you get from when you work out. It's kind of what I'm finding. So it's like, I'm trying to teach really busy people that there's simple things that you can just do at your house, at your desk, that don't take a ton of time or cost you a fortune to do. But what it does do, and this goes back to something I should have answered the first time, is comparing athletes to authors, is the great ones are all consistent. They don't do amazing things every once in a while. It's drip, drip, drip. It's 1,000 balls every day. It's 1,000 words every day. It's making sure you do your wrist exercises, and then make sure you do your shoulder exercises, and make sure that you have your hydration, and make sure your desk is right. But none of these are complicated, which is what people don't do them, because people don't, easy doesn't work, so, but it's just be small, consistent actions teach you. It's like, I love philosophy. I've been read philosophy since I was a kid at the public library. It's like Aristotle says, like, excellent, is a habit. I mean, in essence, it's like, so what you do repeatedly is what you become. And we are slave to our habits, that choose your masters wisely, is what I've always sort of lived from.
That's a great point. And I think a lot of authors probably could relate to that, because what are we doing every day, right? We're writing our books, and one of the things I talk about on the channel is taking small steps every day to get the career and the life that you want. So why not just, include fitness into that? I think that's a great takeaway.
Well, I mean, like how Elrod's book would like Steve and Honoré, like it came out, and basically it's little mini micro habits that you do every day, and then you sort of stack them on, bigger attributes at the end, because exercise has a huge return on investment, and a huge return on the time that you do it, because you're just going to get so much more stuff done, or when you're doing it, you're just going to feel so much happier. It's just like, because when you're working at like a moderate pace, like when you're walking in a hurry, like like you're chasing after your kid, it's like you get this cascade of endorphins, and it becomes like addictive. It's almost like a feedback loop, and it's like, I got a little success, and then it's like, it's just big giant flywheel of achievement happens from just like, it's like a sentence is a collection of individual words, which are nothing but a collection of individual letters, which are nothing but a collection of individual thoughts, which are basically a collection of weird electrical impulses that happen to come from the food that we ate, because basically we run on electricity. So that's why you want to eat certain foods to have higher sort of electrical sort of energy.
Well, let's talk about that, because that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, was food. So, we've covered the fitness, we've covered the kind of, I guess you call it ergonomics, but let's talk about food. What are some foods that writers can eat? What are some foods we shouldn't be eating? And what are some tips you can offer on that?
All right. Well, we will start with my favorite. We should minimize Kit Kats and sort of refined sugars and that sort of stuff because it basically creates inflammation in your body. It's like it makes us really acidic, and then or you switch over to like a Three Musketeer, which that saves me 20 calories, so I only don't have to walk quite as far. So I love candy. So get rid of like your refined sugars and eat whole foods. Not at Whole Foods, because unless you're Michael Crichton, most authors can't shop at Whole Foods yet. So.
I certainly can't.
Sorry, that's why I'm still selling the overpriced push-up. So that's all right. But the closer it looks like when it came out of the ground from the farm, the better it is going to be for you. If it's got a barcode on it, odds are it's not the best thing for you. Which is, again, this is not earth-shattering science, because I hate to say this because I write fitness book. If there's never another word of like fitness written, like we got it covered, it's all sort of mindset. But better foods like whole foods, water-rich foods, dark green, colorful foods, because colorful foods usually means it's filled with like phytonutrients and vitamins and flavors. And these are sort of the things that sort of scrub out this inflammation. That's a huge problem in like modern society. One, we're so stressed from the polluted environment. Two, then we have the stress of life, of family, of children, of word count, because your body, we were made for physical stresses, but your mind really can't differentiate whether we're going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger or we're freaking out because we haven't turned in our chapters to our editor yet. It's the same. Your body responds the same way. You still get the same fight or flight sort of stress drive, which is hard on the heart. You get all this cascade of negative hormones, which is going to make you fat because your body thinks it's going to, we're getting ready to have an ice age. We're never going to eat again. So it's like, so you don't want to do that. So that's why you want colorful foods, hydrate. But like you and I get up early in the morning, if I remember right. And this one of the simplest things that you can eat for a better brain, as I call it, is just like a hard-boiled egg, like a couple of those. Because one, because it's full of choline, which is a really powerful sort of nutrient that helps. It's in the B vitamin family, and it sort of helps you really focus in. So it's going to help feed your brain. It's protein and fat, and your brain's 60% fat. So simply because you're fathead is like, well, thank you. Clearly you're educated. And your brain, even though it's less, I mean, it's just, the human head weighs 7 pounds or whatever they said, Jerry Maguire, but the brain is so small, but it consumes about 25 to 30% of the calories. It's really, really expensive real estate. So that's why you need, some carbs, but what we call slow carbs. Because like ice cream and like, whole grains, like they're the same thing, but one's good for you, but one's not. So that's what people, so make sure it's like real whole food. Another simple thing for like breakfast is like, if you're a cereal person, I'm like, I got my 2 eggs, I'd hit it with like a nice, like, this is going to make my gluten people freak out, but like a wheat bran cereal, basically because it's got zinc. Again, zinc's another sort of, it helps fight with cancer. It kind of gives you what they call cognitive stability. It sort of helps I'm going to read my little sheet here. It's memory formation, cognitive stability, and it helps with like skin tone. So basically it helps the brain rebuild itself and help it lay down more memory tracks. The way the brain works is it's electrical impulses over and over again. So it's like, if I said like red truck and you said red truck like 10 or 15 times, every time you say it, it's like your brain goes like truck. So it just makes these neural pathways. And zinc's one of the things that helps sort of lay that stuff down. So I got my hard-boiled egg, got a little bowl of cereal, like, like our toast or something like that. And then I'm not a coffee drinker, but coffee's good because, again, it has caffeine, which is a nice, what they call ergogenic egg, which basically it means it wakes you up. It's a performance enhancer, but you won't be banned from baseball for taking it. And like a cup of coffee is going to give you about 4 or 6 hours of like a little pick me up, but not make you too jittery. So that's a real good kind of breakfast standpoint. Now, I know a lot of people are like whole food, like juicers. Those things are good, but again, you can just sort of supplement. Make sure you're getting, like, dark greens are going to have these ingredients in them as well. Some people were adding bone broth in, which I personally enjoy the bone broth for the collagen. You kind of sip on it all day long. So it's sort of like this kind of steady energy throughout the day. And that helps me because it helps with inflammation. It's good for your gut. And that's where I start for breakfast. I'm rambling.
No, this is great. I'm loving every minute of this.
All right. So you ate your breakfast, and then it's America, so we need some magic pills to swallow. So, and we're going to be exotic. So, there's tons of things what they call neurotropics that kind of out in like Silicon Valley. They got these kind of crazy cocktails of stuff that they've done. But the simplest thing that works is just like Hispanic ginseng, which is PANAX and GINSENG, which is death for memory concentration. It's basically a vasodilator, so your brain gets more oxygen to it, and the good old ginkgo biloba, which is not as powerful as they say it, once was. But again, it does help your brain. It does increase blood flow to your brain, which is why exercise is good for your brain, which is why if you get up in the morning to get 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of walking, one, it's going to wake you up. Two, it's going to get this, just pump oxygen through your brain, kind of clean out kind of the cobwebs, and your brain runs, and it's going to replenish the glucose in your brain, because your brain actually runs on sugar, believe it or not, but it's a special kind. So like, don't feel like you're smart because you eat a Kit Kat. It doesn't work that way. It's like your liver turns it into goes from a sugar to a glucagon to like a glucose to just an individual little molecule in the cells. But so don't eat sugar, it's bad for you. And the other thing is, for waking up, noise canceling headphones with like some good music. I mean, because it will change your state. Like Duke just came out with a study. I'm like, where I live is like 20 minutes away from like Duke University, so we get all these studies early. His music is almost as effective as stimulants, and it's almost as effective as antidepressants. And then we've got tons of studies where walking 30 minutes a day is as good as like your Zoloft's, your Prozacs, that sort of stuff. Because if you change your state, it changes your psychology, because they're sort of intertwined. It's like if you smile, like you can't feel depressed. Like the most ridiculous study that Duke did, they had people come and stand in front of a mirror and smile like a madman, like this, for like minutes for like 20 days, and they quit being depressed, because basically it created the hormones like I'm happy. So
Yeah.
that was.
I've heard of that. I've heard of people of doing studies kind of like that, where it was a book I read not that long ago, actually. I don't remember what it was, but they said, if the next time you're feeling sad or, upset about something, stand in front of the mirror and, smile and just say, I feel terrible. I feel terrible. And smile as wide as you can, and then frown and say, I feel great, and apparently that's supposed to like do some stuff in your brain. And
I've worked with some really great sports psychologists from golf and tennis, and what that's called is a pattern interrupt, and it just makes your brain go like, what? It's like, I'm smiling, but you keep going, I'm sad, and it's like it just breaks. It just completely, your brain goes, again, that electrical, like laying on the tracks of electricity, like red truck. You're going like, well, that's happy and sad, like they're not connected. They literally break that bond. So that's one of the powerful ways to kind of either instill habits or break habits. It's like, if there's certain foods that you love, if you sort of visualize like for it to be, for it to be like a level 10 of pleasure, like what does it look like and what does it taste like? And then you think like, what would it be if it's like for it to be like a level 5 good? And then what would it take to be for it like a negative 10? And if you say it and you feel it, you'll be like repulsed by food that you used to love. So it sounds like I need to do that about my Kit Kat, but
I need to do that about cookies. They're my
weakness. See, here's the other thing is clients, they just bring you cookies. Like nobody wants to bring you like a cauliflower. So like, it's like the best dessert.
Of course not.
It's like really amazing, like either like executives or like the executive wives, like sort of like stay-at-home moms. And it's like, apparently good cooks tend to be a little overweight and like bring this stuff to us. So it's fantastic. So that's one of the dirty things.
Yeah, Harry and David don't sell cauliflower boxes,
No, they don't.
It might be better for all of us authors if they did, but yeah.
Yeah, well, see, the other thing is like I was in, I forget what little mastermind I was in. Somebody was talking about over on the keyboard. Somebody was talking about like, writing, getting fat. It's like, so that kind of triggered moving into like the write more, weigh less kind of concept, because most things it's not. Everybody knows the tactics is more mindset and implementation, like what you and I. And that's one of the things I admire about you, and that you sort of reinforce in me. It's just like, it's small, consistent actions over and over sort of end up creating this like amazing life or this amazing body. It's like, like Dwayne Johnson, like The Rock, like he's I mean, he has the genetics to be big, but it's like he ate his 6-7 meals a day and he went to the gym every day. And it's not that he went, 4 times all of a sudden he got huge. It's just like he was a skinny little kid and then he happened, So we all being healthy is really easy, but to maximize your genetics when it starts getting really hard, that's when people start getting crazy. It's like, you got to exercise this way, or you've got to eat this way. That's about maximizing your genetic and human potential. But to be healthy and live a long life, that's those sort of simple shoulder drills, wrist drills, the 30-minute walk, and the good, classic variety diet with some good sort of brain supplements. It's like you'll live a long, happy, healthy, functional life. And then when you start wanting to go look like Wolverine, like that's a whole nother kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
I can teach you how to do that, but
that's
I ain't got that kind of time anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll be the Black Wolverine. That's actually
man,
dreams to be.
Well, that's what Black Panther is. See, I'm a comic book nerd too. See, I love we're just talking now. But when my grandma Katie's like she had this little storage shed. And my uncle's friend stored his comic book collection in there. And literally there was a box in there that was 6 feet long, 4 feet across, and like 8-inch deep. And it was full of like every kind of comic book you would ever want to read. And I was probably like 7. And it's like, you just like, they had like all the adventures and all the DCs and like Richie Rich. So I just like read and like, I've always liked mythology and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, and that's where I fell in love with storytelling. And then the other thing from success, to go back to like success and achievement, and I think Tony Robbins says this, but a lot of other people to it. And I kind of arrived at this like by myself. It's like the quality of your life is kind of determined by the story that you tell yourself. Like when stuff happens to you, like what does it mean? So it's like we kind of like, oh, well, it's like, well, I ran into this person and they were not, they weren't that nice to me. It's like, they must be a horrible person. Or you can go like, well, I ran into this person. Well, maybe this person's having a bad day. And it's like, maybe I need to help them. It's like same event, same people, but a whole different sort of experience because you told yourself a different story. And then,
I couldn't agree with that more. One of the things that I'll be talking about on the channel upcoming is, what do you want your narrative to be? Right. Like if your career were to stop today, I mean, heaven forbid, right? If your career were to stop today, what is your narrative going to be? Father, son, writer who wrote a ton of books, connected with a ton of readers, but what are the details? So I wanted to take this time to transition into your book because I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about it and tell me, what you're focusing on in the book and the title, of course.
Okay. Well, the newest book that I've got coming out is, I'm just going to call it Write More, Way Less is what it is. And basically it's for authors who may or may not be the white or black Wolverine yet, but also would like to instill these health habits and also have enough time to get their word count in, also learn kind of parallel tracks and habits to sort of achieve the same sort of goals again, because most of the stuff is mindset and the mechanics are the same. So it's going to be sort of a follow along, sort of like 7-day jump start and like a 30-day kind of interactive do along. It's like small little habits, sort of like basically a template. Like when you get done, like you could probably be your own sort of personal trainer. So we're going to have like a mindset, we'll have a movement, and we'll sort of have either like a marketing or a word kind of standpoint to it as well. So that's where we are. The fitness part I've got down. I just kind of got to hone in to the mechanics of delivering it. But there'll be like recipes. Like when you get it, like you're like, oh, well, this is what I should do today. These are like the 7 best things for my brain. Like here's like 3 super habits I can do. Oh, look, well, this is only going to take like 15 minutes to do, and I can even do it in between sessions, and I can write my words, and I can be healthy, and I can play with my baby, and I'll have a nice long career. My back won't hurt. I'll be super sexy when I go on my book tour and get on.
No, that's all that is brilliant. See, that's why I wanted to talk to you, is because, I think, one of the things that
I'm going to need a copy of that brilliant part, by the way.
What's that?
I'm gonna need part of that, the brilliant part. I'm gonna need that.
Okay. No, I mean, seriously though, I mean, one of the things I look at all the time, and I kind of have this mental agony when I think about it, is all the books out there that have not been written that would greatly benefit authors. One of those books is Taxes for Authors. That book hasn't been written yet, right? You know, and it's all these things out there that we don't know, that we need to know to be professionals, right? Because that's one of the things I talk about on the channel, is how to be a consummate professional in every sense of the word. And this kind of book is missing from the marketplace. And I think that's like all the stuff we talked about today. If it's in there, I would totally buy that.
Well, that's good to know. It's like I have a heart to help people, and sort of like you're my avatar, and like I'm my avatar. It's like most people write their book to some people, and what you said is like, and this comes from Zig Ziglar, is like, if there's a book you want to read and it's not out there, like you should write it. And that's kind of was the genesis from this. Because I left the part out because in a narrow little sentence, like when I said the only time I ever got hurt was when I was writing. Mm-hmm. It's like what happened was I had a giant herniated disc. Like I had been basically like a professional fighter and trainer and ultra marathoner, basically injury free, like, you know, little traditional aches and pains. But I sat down and I wrote, my daughter's in competitive cheerleading, so I wrote a couple of, you know, fitness books for cheerleaders, because they, again, like authors, like they need the book, but it's not there. It's like, well, I'll write the book. So that's why my stuff's all over the place. But my back exploded, literally like exploded, like a whole disc just out. Barely got home. I go, you know, kind of manage, and the next day I go downstairs. I'm getting ready to go to the doctor. You know, that evening, I put my leg up on the coffee table, and it completely ruptured to the point where it's like I was laying in a hardwood floor, like crawling around the house, like sobbing, and so just like excruciating, like mind-numbing sort of pain. And I was like, I can save that from people. I can still see the look of fear in my wife's face, just like terrified. Like, what am I going to do? Because I've had bad things happen to me like that. Like the back pain was the most excruciating, and then it's like it takes you a year just to be able to be strong enough to. So I had back surgery. Fortunately, it worked, and I can do about what I want to, except for when I got hit by a car like 2 years ago and went back to ground zero. But that's the story for another day. But it's just sitting in the wrong place. It's sitting the wrong way. It wasn't that I hurt my back one day. I hurt it over the course of a year, sitting in a bad chair, in a bad posture, writing in a bad building, just hodgepodge. And it's like, and I was a fit dude. It's like, if you're not training, like, I can only imagine how bad people feel who aren't fit, and just how, and most writers were sort of introverted, and we just sort of sit there and we just kind of like, we start spreading, and they're like, our house is just like, why is our house small? It's like, oh wait, I'm bigger. It's like, you know,
I wonder how many people have that thought. I'm not quite there yet. You know,
yeah, it's like you're all mad at your wife for shrinking your shirt. She goes, "Well, why else did I shrink the car in the bed too?" It's like, oh, well, no. So do the math. So
yeah, well, definitely.
And it just sort of creeps up on you.
Yeah.
And then, but I love authors. Like, authors are my heroes. Like, as long as I can remember, it's like I've loved stories, and just, I grew up in the country, so like the bookmobile would come, and it was like this whole world came, because I was like, my next neighbor was like 5 miles away, and it's just like, it's this whole world, and it's like they tell these wonderful stories, and it's like you learn these things, and it's like they change the way you feel, and then you take this thing and then you share it with somebody else, and you sort of change it. This ripple goes through time, from just this one sentence you may have read when you were 7, or something you read when you're like 37, but just kind of like ripples through time. It's like, and that's what I'm trying to do, because it's like I used to want to have a bookstore. You know, in college I'd collect old books. Like my most treasured possession is like original editions of Michael or John Steinbeck, like East of Eden and like Grapes of Wrath. Like love those books. And if you know that sort of descriptive writing, but sort of having a social impact sort of in books, it's like, that's what I want to do. It's like I sort of want to create like a movement for authors, because we have a power to change people, because people spend time with our thoughts. Like, you know, like your science fiction or your fantasy, like you made that up, but there's people all over the world like reading that story, the stuff that used to live in your head, and they're connecting that with stories that that they've read and they've seen, or stories they think they might want to do. And it's like, you just change these people, and you're changing their physiology, you're changing their state. It's like, we have a duty to be able to be as productive as possible for as long as possible, because people depend on us either to entertain them, to distract them, to change their lives, just make somebody laugh or think. And it's like, author, we have power. It's like, I love my authors, and like, I was so excited when I got my first book. I was just so excited. It's like, it was when I got my first book deal, it was so amazing. Like, I made it, which you really haven't made it, but didn't know that, because like, you write a book, we're all going to be Michael Crichton, we're all going to, no, it's like, you get your little advance, and holy crap, like, I got to promote all this stuff. It's like, I got to get, it's like, that's why I switched to self-publishing. It's like, you're basically, even if you get a book deal, like, you're self-published, like, you got to market. Even then, like, I'd have to call you, or I have to email you, or I'll go to the Barnes and Nobles or Books A Million, or like whatever. It's like you're self-publishing anyway, and then it takes you 2 years to write a book, and by the time you're done, like, you just hate it because you've read the same thing for 2 straight years, where now you can write it in 6 weeks, 8 weeks if it's a nonfiction book, and it's like, boom, there's my baby. Enjoy it. I want another one. So that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's great message. And oh, we're getting a little bit of echo here, but yeah. So
sorry.
No, that's okay. I think it's my microphone. But we're coming up on time, Alton. And
okay, sorry, buddy.
I want to ask you one final thing. Where is the best place for people to find you, your books, and what's on the horizon for you? When can we expect your book to come out? Okay.
Well, you can go to I built a landing page for, and it's just real simple. It's writemoreway.com, and it's just a landing page. And if you sign up for that, I'm going to take what was in our show notes today and some other stuff, and then I will send it out in a nice, beautiful PDF form to you, and then I'll send you like little snippets away and release it. But I should be. We're looking, if somebody does what they're supposed to this week, we will get it. I'm looking like September-ish to get it out, and it'll take like a couple of months to get some traction, and then with New Year's coming out, we'll have another sort of push, because I usually do just a rough version, get it out, and then people say, well, this is great, this is bad, and then I like do an updated edition that's like the new and improved one that people like. Is kind of how I do my little fitness, the new model that I'm trying. So that's what we'll see how that goes. So you got August to be fat and lazy and just like stretch it all out, and then like September 1, like it's on. We're going
people
full,
watching. It's June 30th. So, yeah, definitely. The time is ticking. So Alton, I want to thank you for stopping by tonight. It's been fantastic.
All right. Thank you, Michael. If I can help you or help my fellow authors, please just reach out. And also you can just reach me at altonskinner.com. But if you're most interested in this book, just go to Write More, Way Less, and I'll see you around the web somewhere.
Great. And we'll drop those in the show notes for all the viewers and listeners. And Alton, if you stick on the line, we'll chat here for a few minutes. But everybody, thanks for watching. This has been a great interview. I've taken a lot of things away from this, and I'll watch the video again and put links to all the things that Alton talked about. And yeah, definitely go visit his page and get better, get more well, write better, way less, right? So have a good night, everybody.
Write more, way less, sell more books.
There you go. Have a good night, everyone.